It's August 1941. A Soviet Ilyushin Il-4 lumbers down a dirt runway outside Leningrad, its twin engines howling. The pilot yanks the stick, but the bomber refuses to climb, its wings shuddering, tail dragging like an anchor. Minutes later, it's over Nazi lines, dodging flak so thick you could walk on it, as one navigator later said. By dawn, this same battered bomber limps home, one engine dead, fuselage riddled with bullet holes, and mission accomplished. Welcome to Historical Digs, where we unearth the untold tales of history's most ingenious machines. This is the paradox of the Ilyushin Il-4, a plane so cursed on takeoff, pilots joked it needed a runway longer than the motherland, yet so unkillable in combat even the Germans grudgingly admired it. This was a flying contradiction, a machine forged in the chaos of Stalin's industrial crunch, designed to fail but engineered to endure. The birth of a flying coffin. The Il-4's origins were less a triumph of engineering than a testament to Stalin's ruthless pragmatism. In 1936, Soviet aviation was reeling from humiliation. The Tupolev TB-3, a lumbering giant of a bomber, had just been outclassed by sleek German designs at the Milan Air Show. Stalin, incensed, demanded a bomber that could strike Berlin and return without begging for fuel. Designer Sergei Ilyushin, a former peasant turned aeronautical savant, delivered the DB-3, a plane that promised glory but reeked of compromise. Now, before we take a closer look at the flying coffin, hit that like button and subscribe to Historical Digs. Your support helps us unearth the lost stories of history's most ingenious war machines. Okay, the DB-3 was, like I said before, a paradox. Its sleek aluminum frame hid a skeleton of shortcuts. To save weight, Ilyushin used birch plywood for wing spars, a decision that caused wings to warp in humid Baltic summers. Navigators lay prone in a coffin-sized nose, squinting through a fist-sized window to aim bombs. The landing gear, flimsy as a bicycle frame, earned the nickname Toothpick Legs after 3 planes collapsed during a 1937 parade for Politburo officials. Yet the DB-3 had one redeeming quality: range. In 1938, a modified DB-3 dubbed Moskva attempted a non-stop flight from Moscow to New York. It crashed on a remote Canadian island after 4,800 miles, but Stalin didn't care. The propaganda messaging, "Soviet bomber challenges America," was enough. War exposed the DB-3's flaws mercilessly. During the Winter War against Finland in 1939, pilots discovered its engines, Tumansky M87 radials, sputtered in negative 30 degrees Celsius cold. Bombs froze to racks. Gunners, crammed into unheated turrets, lost fingers to frostbite. Flying it was like wrestling a bear in a phone booth, griped Captain Viktor Petrov. By 1940, losses were so catastrophic that Ilyushin was ordered to redesign it, fast. The result, the Il-4, was less an upgrade than a desperate patch job. The glazed nose gave navigators room to sit, but the new Shikos machine gun mount vibrated so violently that gunners joked about how you could shake a cocktail in there. Engines were upgraded to Tumansky M88s, but they overheated if pushed past 2,500 RPM. Takeoffs remained a nightmare. With a max weight of 30,000 pounds, the Il-4 needed 1.2 miles of runway, a luxury Soviet pilots rarely had. We'd rev the engines until they screamed, pray to marks, and yank the stick like our lives depended on it, recalled Lieutenant Pavel Grachev, which they did. Yet, Stalin's factories churned out Il-4s by the thousands. Quality control was unheard of, wings were patched with sheet metal from gutted Ladas, hydraulic systems leaked so badly ground crews tracked planes by their oil trails. But here's the thing, none of it mattered. Why? The Il-4 wasn't built to be good. It was built to exist, and for a USSR losing 1,000 planes a month in 1941, existence was enough. The Berlin Raids. Desperation over design. August 1941. The Nazis were at the gates of Leningrad and Stalin needed a win. Any win. His order? Bomb Berlin. The catch? The nearest Soviet airfield was 600 miles from the German capital. Only the Il-4, with its Frankensteinian mix of range and fragility, could attempt it. The mission was insanity. Crews stripped their Il-4s of armor, guns, even radios to cram in extra fuel. Bombs were reduced to a token 4 500-pounders, symbolic confetti for Hitler. On August 8, 15 Il-4s lumbered off a dirt strip on Ösel Island, Estonia. Navigators, hunched in glass noses frosted with breath, plotted courses using hand-drawn maps. "We navigated by stars when the clouds parted," wrote navigator Anatoly Lebedev. "When they didn't, we guessed." Over Berlin, the sky erupted. Searchlights speared the Il-4s, and flak burst so close it peeled paint like sunburn, recalled pilot Mikhail Vodopyanov. One bomber, hit in the fuel tank, became a fireball. Another spiraled into the Spree River. Yet the survivors pressed on, dropping bombs near the Tiergarten. The damage? A shattered streetcar and 2 scorched factories. The propaganda value? Priceless. Returning was worse. German night fighters, Me-110s with upward-firing Schräge Musik cannons, pounced. Lieutenant Ivan Karpov's Il-4 took a 20mm shell to the tail. The rudder vanished, just poof, he said. Somehow, he glided 200 miles to Soviet lines, landing in a potato field. Vodopyanov's plane, riddled with 87 bullet holes, limped home on one engine. Ground crews found a dead gunner frozen to his turret, fingers still clenched around his chakas. The raids continued for a month. Of the 86 Il-4s sent, 33 never returned. But Stalin got his headlines. Red Air Force strikes fascist heart. The Il-4, meanwhile, earned a grim nickname, the Flying Coffin with a Silver Lining. Crews hated it, mechanics cursed it, but as Vodopyanov noted, it brought us back. Not all of us, not all the time, but enough. The Il-4's durability was borderline supernatural. One plane returned with half a wing sheared off by flak. Another, its navigator dead and instrument shattered, followed a railroad track home like a bloodhound. "It wasn't a bomber," said gunner Nikolai Zaitsev. "It was a cockroach. You couldn't kill it no matter how hard you stopped." By September, the raids ceased, not due to losses, but because the Il-4s were needed elsewhere. The Eastern Front was collapsing, and Stalin's flying coffins had a new mission: buying time, one battered airframe at a time. The art of Soviet jury rigging. By 1942, the Il-4 had become a wartime chameleon, part bomber, part guinea pig, part flying scrap heap. With the Eastern Front collapsing, Soviet engineers resorted to battlefield improvisation that would make MacGyver blush. Aluminum shortages forced factories to patch wings with roofing tin and seat cushions stuffed with newspaper. Engines cannibalized from crashed Lend-Lease P-39s were bolted onto Il-4s, creating Frankenstein hybrids that mechanics dubbed Amerikansky mules. One crew in Stalingrad replaced a shattered tail section with plywood and tractor parts, then flew 5 more missions before the glue failed. The Il-4's true genius lay in its modularity. Some mounted torpedoes for Black Sea raids, skimming so low their propellers kicked up salt spray. Others towed A-7 gliders packed with partisans, released behind Nazi lines like deadly paper airplanes. Finnish pilots, flying captured Il-4s against their former owners, marveled at its resilience. "You could shoot out an engine, shred the wings, and it'd still crawl home," admitted Finnish ace Lauri Pekkari. One Il-4, commandeered by the Luftwaffe for recon, survived 3 forced landings before the German crew set it ablaze in frustration. But the ultimate test came in 1943 over Kursk. An Il-4 from the 5th Guards Bomber Regiment, piloted by Ivan Polbin, took a direct flak hit that sheared off its right engine and half the wing. With fuel spewing into the negative 40 degrees Celsius air, Polbin ordered his crew to jettison everything: guns, bombs, even their boots, to lighten the load. They glided 15 miles into Soviet territory, crash landing in a wheat field. Ground crews counted 211 bullet holes and a wing held on by 2 rivets. "We patched it with sheet metal from a Panzer," said mechanic Viktor Sokolov, and flew it again next week. The Il-4's adaptability wasn't just mechanical, it was psychological. Crews painted names like Stalin's Fist and Iron Roach on battered fuselages. One navigator, Nina Raspopova, became a legend after navigating a moonless raid using only a pocket compass and the glow of burning villages. "We didn't have technology," she said. "We had luck, hate, and a plane that refused to die." The legacy of the unbreakable. The Il-4's post-war fate was as unglamorous as its service. By 1946, jets like the Tu-4, a reverse-engineered B-29, dominated Soviet skies. But the Il-4 wasn't retired, it was recycled. Stripped of guns and armor, it became a cargo hauler, mapping Siberia's glaciers with bomb bays crammed with seismic sensors. Others, fitted with wooden skis, resupplied Arctic weather stations, their crews enduring temperatures so cold that urine froze mid-air. Yet the Il-4's DNA lived on. The Tu-4 borrowed its rugged airframe philosophy, while the Il-28 jet bomber mimicked its modular payload system. Even the MiG-15's early ejection seats were tested on Il-4s. Pilots joked they'd rather face Stalin's wrath than ride that catapult. But the true testament to its legacy came in 1955 when engineers discovered an Il-4 abandoned in a Kazakh boneyard. Its logbook revealed it had flown 487 missions, survived 17 crash landings, and been repaired with parts from a tractor, a German staff car, and a cinema projector. The Air Force restored it as a museum piece, but veterans protested. "Let it rot," said pilot Alexei Ivanov. "Monuments are for heroes. That thing? It's a survivor." The Il-4's paradox endures. It was a bomber no one loved, but everyone relied on, a symbol of Soviet ingenuity and desperation. As designer Sergei Ilyushin admitted in 1968, "We didn't build it to be good, we built it to last." And last it did. Today, a single Il-4 sits in a Moscow hangar, its patched wings and bullet scars silent witnesses to a war where broken things held the line long enough for better machines to take wing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to join us on the next historical dig. Until then, keep exploring the stories they didn't teach you in class.